That was a demo of the Helensson ITM2, which I've installed here on my edrum frame. If you don't know anything about this company, they're based just outside of Montreal. They make a lot of interesting edrum frames. This one's got some interesting apocalyptic shit going on there. Some flying demons and pyromaniacal shit. Not exactly sure what's going on, but it's cool. They've got a lot of other designs to choose from. However, the thing that was really disappointing about it is the triggers that come with these things are not of great quality. They're center mounted, so the trigger would go right here, and then you could raise or lower it with this little thing. But even I found it was a little better when I had lowered it as much as possible, but it was still getting a lot of hot spotting. So I decided to try one of these side mounted triggers, and I'm pretty happy with how this Helensson is turning out. It's a pretty versatile trigger. You can use it with any drum module because it's got the phase switch there. So like if you have a Roland, you can leave that up for the reverse polarity that the Roland modules need. For most other modules, you'll want that in phase or in the down mode, because that's just how most modules work, other modules. The only compatibility issue I had was with the installation. The trigger was intended to be secured onto one of the lugs, which, as you can see, is not the case in my scenario. The lug is over here, trigger's over here. I had to install it onto the actual, had to drill some holes and make a new place for it on the shell, because the screws that are on my lugs here were too wide to fit into this narrow slit that they give you to put the screws through. It's only about 5 millimeters in width. So if the screws on your lugs are more than 5 millimeters wide, you'll just have to be willing to drill through another part of your shell there. Assuming your shell's made of wood. If it's metal or carbon fiber, not sure how you do that. You might be able to super glue it on somehow, use some sort of really strong adhesive tape, but I'm not sure how much I would recommend that. I place the trigger such that it only pops up about 1 millimeter or 2 above the rim there. They suggest 2 to 3 millimeters, but I wanted it to keep it on the low end to avoid hot spotting as much as possible. Although that shouldn't be too much of an issue if you keep the trigger in a place that isn't likely to be hit directly. But I find you can get really good articulation if the sensitivity knobs are dialed all the way up. So you shouldn't need the trigger pressing too firmly into the mesh head. You want it to be touching, obviously, but you also don't want the foam to be compressed very much either. That said, you'll need to set the sensitivity on your module to maximum before using this, because these knobs are meant to essentially replace the sensitivity setting on your module. So you dial that up to 100%, and then these, if you have them all the way down, you won't get any sound at all, and then all the way up, that'll be your max. I like to keep mine, like for the demo, I had them in this position just below, about halfway there, but that's because I tend to be a bit of a harder hitter, so I like them, like the sensitivity a little bit lower. If you're playing more delicate sort of orchestral stuff, you might want to dial that up a bit. This is what I had for the demo, and As you can see, there was a little bit of cutting out when I was playing really softly near the rim, but if you dial up the knobs, it will catch those hits as well. And here's the phase button. So I have a Roland module, so it's reverse polarity, so it wants the waveform to be out of phase, so I keep it up. But for most other modules, you'll want it down because it needs in phase for those modules. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments. That's it. Peace.